Future Fishers is a registered non-profit organization. We're established to help improve sustainable use and management of Trinidad and Tobago's coastal and marine resources, whilst at the same time trying to improve opportunities for better governance, economic growth, social advancement of the fishing communities in which we operate. This paper would have come about from a pilot project in which we were trying to build capacity of our local fishers. It was facilitated by the support of the Green Fund under the Ministry of Planning and Development, and is also supported by our Fisheries Division. Right, so with respect to sharks, over 1/3 of sharks are threatened with extinction globally. It is said that relatively greater numbers here in the Western Atlantic area, they're disproportionately threatened. The waters in which we are located is said to host about 14% of the global number of shark species, right? In 2006, Trinidad and Tobago would have put forward or attempted a national plan of action for sharks. And in so doing, that report said they had some major constraints or concerns, listing about 18 of them. What we hope to do here today is to kind of bridge the gap and shed light on some of those issues, namely, treating with the inability to reliably record landings by species. Sharks are very cryptic. Using a framework for identification of threatened species, using a systematic recording of shark catches from all sources, and having a systematic collection of trade data on sharks, right? Additionally, we are hoping that by being able to look into the data that we've amassed, that we can find areas, times, regions, some other kinds of variables in which the coastal communities would have reacted poorly or had a poor catch of sharks. For us, that would mean that they're doing something that's different, that's resulting in less shark capture. So it's for us to really drill down into the data and try to figure out where and why and how that is and can it be applied. So this is our study area down to the bottom left. That's the north and northeast corner of Trinidad, and to the top, that landmass is Tobago. So we have 3 sites in the north. They're Matlot, Grand River, and Toko, and to the north of them is the Caribbean Sea. We have 3 sites to the east. These are Salibe, Kumana, Toko, and they would be influenced by the Atlantic Ocean, right? Sorry, I just go back one slide to say that the data that we're dealing with, we have 1,400 records. Data was collected from January to December in 2022. 1 trained data collector at each site, whereby that collector would have identified and recorded the number of individuals, group weight of the individuals of the species, the price fetched, the fishing method, and a whole other slew of information. Data collectors were supposed to take no more than 4 records a day at every landing site, right? And I will add that that maximum quota, it was never attained, nor was it close to being attained. In terms of how we probe the data, we would have done just preliminary work, descriptive analyses, whereby we're looking at means, standard deviations, we're looking at relationship maps, means plots, and this is just to give us an idea of which areas we can start probing out. My colleague, Dr. Alexander, he would have been using SSP to analyze and generate the outputs. So overall, from the shark landings, from the total landings, we found that 16,337 individuals, or 21% of the number of individuals of finfish landed, were shark. 49,867 pounds, or 24% of the total finfish landed, shark. And this equated to about 350,721 TT dollars, or 13% of the total finfish income. So we're starting to paint a picture, right? And speaking of pictures, we will be using some illustrations to go through how we're probing and what we're finding and what we're seeing. We are using means plots and relationship maps. The thing to note with the means plots is that where the confidence interval doesn't overlap, then it could be probed further. There could be some significant statistical difference. And relationship maps, on the other hand, these are just a series of nodes connected by lines showing the strengths or weakness of the connections or the relationships. And the bigger the node, thicker the line, is the stronger the relationship. And inversely is also true. So one of the first outputs that we generated is the means plot here showing the average landings. We can see right over Grand River in the red box there, right away, that the confidence interval for the landings of shark at Grand River, it doesn't overlap with any of the other sites. So right away, you can cue in on something for further probing. And if we were to say Matlot, Toko have a similar kind of landing, and the same with Kumana, Landra, Salibi, similar type of landing. Now, this is the relationship map, and what this layout is showing is the fishing methods and how the various ports in the study were using them. Right away, we can see that nets, green and white, they were the major method used, but there's also other slew of methods, and we can say that Salibi was the leading site in terms of using them, whereas Grand River, which we were just looking at, the reliance on it, it is there, but it is not as strong. And there's also, you would see one straight line pointing to switchering, meaning they're the only area that are using this method, right? This will come in handy as we go forward because we're probing. Another relationship map that could be drawn, and we bring it here for reference, we try to show the various species and how they're landed across the ports. So species-wise, we have sharp-nosed sharks, which the villagers call waterbelly. Sharp-nosed sharks is the predominant species that is landed in our study area, and it's kind of spread out amongst all of our landing sites. What's important to note here is that although it's spread out amongst all the landing sites, again, Grand River has the smallest light blue node. That kind of indicates, we're not really catching that much. And any number of such charts could be drawn, but this is just us probing and going. Another nice illustration here is breaking down the species of shark into their respective IUCN categories. So one of the problems we had in the early shark action plan was that there was no way to break down the shark importance for conservation. IUCN status is a very good benchmark to use, and we were able to do that here. What we can see is sharp-nosed waterbelly shark, they fall under the vulnerable group, but in terms of the contribution to the entire catch for the period, as was stated before, they form the main or the bulk of shark. If we wanted to focus on critically endangered species, we're looking at the group down below. We should therefore start to also think about probing out the gold, the small eye hammerheads, the small tail sharks, the great hammerheads, the scalloped hammerheads. Right? We were interested in trying to figure out, is there a time or a month that these sharks are going to be more prevalent than others? And from the analyses, we would have seen that that's March, September, October, November for the period. They were the months that had these slightly higher monthly landings, right? Conversely, April, June, August were the months that had the slightly lower landings. So again, we are starting to identify, where to look. What's happening in April, June, and August that's resulting in the lower catches. The price of fish, this is not an easy road or easy access for vendors to get into, and distance from the market becomes a factor. We're also aware that relative shark sizes, sharks grouped into large, medium, and small. Large sharks tend to catch a smaller or relatively lower price per pound than a small fish. That has to do with the quality of the meat and the amount of the waste generated. But the thing here is, why is Toko and Salibi, why are they having a higher price per pound. So again, areas to drill down into, and I mentioned two of the factors: distance from the market, size of the fish. Monthly differences in the price of shark landings. Everything has a season here with us in Trinidad, and the months with the highest price offered per shark is March and April. And of the batch, if you do fast for Lent and you give up all meat sex fish, you could understand or relate to the high price in March and April, right? That would explain or should explain that. So, going forward, this was just descriptive analyses, but we would like to do multivariate regression analyses of the landings across the ports and the months. And the kind of questions or areas that we're looking at is why, for example, is Grand River doing differently in terms of a small catch than the rest of the surrounding sites? Why was April and March having significantly higher price for fish? Well, we mentioned Lent is just to actually make the fact indeed a scientific fact now. And going forward, can we start doing the necessary probing so that we can say target reduction in the landings of the whole group or subgroup or even species, based on our findings? What are we learning? What can we take from Grand River and try to apply at Toko and Sally Bay that had the highest catches? Right. So references and questions. I am sorry for speeding through that. I know time is of the essence.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. That was very informative. We look forward to seeing your paper in the scientific publication that will be produced. But thank you, Mr. Khan.